Welcome to another round of meditation hour. And it is really, really late here. It's past midnight, and it's been it was a good day today. I'm very delighted with some of the things which happened in my life, and on top of that, I am very ecstatic for what's coming in the world, not just my personal world, but in the entire world altogether. I'm seeing that most of the people are being cautious about their health and the, more aware about whatever is going on in the world. So that's a good change altogether. Hopefully, the lockdown made people reflect inside, and then that fresh energy is coming out right now. And I bet, like, in the upcoming months, I will see like surge of enthusiasm and energy. That being said, in the United States, a lot of things are going on. Today, at least in Georgia State, where I live, we had an election, primary elections, and from what I'm seeing online, a lot of people are complaining about the voter suppression, and it's not a new doing. It's the the governor of Georgia has been suppressing votes forever. So it's not a new thing. It was anticipated even before people went to vote today. So it's gonna be interesting to see what the result gonna be. I hope that it reflect the actual voice of the people and not deflected because of the voter suppression. But that's the name of the game, baby. Suppress all the votes and tilt the election into your party's favor. And that's how you retain power. And that's how you get to create policies which benefit you and your friends. And that's how you break the system. Well, yeah, it's complicated. It's everywhere, in the sense, all both party does it in different states. It's just a matter of different degree, and I've seen this in India as well. So I bet, I might be generalizing, but I bet most of the countries are experiencing some sort of voter suppression. Countries such as Russia and other so-called democratic countries, for sure does. It's pretty obvious. Uh, but also the so-called actually democratic countries also have some sort of, you know, backdoor to suppress the votes. Normally, the people in power divide people in terms of race or religion or ethnicity, or could be any random fact. And that's how the people in power maintain their power, divide and rule. It's not a new concept, and it has been a successful concept for past, I don't know how many centuries. uh, I was actually reading about the events which led to US's uh, independence back in 1776. And it's fascinating to see how it all evolved from uh, uprisings, few revolutionary uprisings. And Honestly, I feel that American independence is one of the most important historical event. I may be wrong, but I believe the modern form of democracy was established throughout the world because of the United States. And the the essence of democracy is really beautiful. It involves all the people, but there is a lot of bad history of democracy within the United States as well. And that kind of make me ask, what is the best form of democracy? I mean, currently, pretty much all the democratic countries have a republican form of democracy. So, even though the people are elected by the people of the nation, but once elected, the congressmen or the members of parliament or whatever that specific country label their elected leaders have additional powers to create laws and policies which will be benefiting to the entire nation. So that's a republican form, right? So democracy is where all the people get to vote, uh, in theory, and republican is where people can, the elected leaders can come to an agreement to pass laws and policies. And I believe pure democracy would be impossible. And even if it's possible, it would be chaotic. I cannot imagine if everyone has the capability to vote for a specific law, right? And based on how most of the people act, which is emotionally, that law could be twisted into so many different angles. Whereas an elected leader could be debriefed with additional information which give them a better insight of the law itself, and they can dedicate and pass a better law. But none of the systems are pure, so the elected leaders end up being corrupted because of other personal interest, and they end up voting for the policies which may not reflect people's opinion. So that's where there is a distance between the people's will and the elected leaders. And I think the better solution is somewhere in between. So if there are laws around core important issues, then it should be brought in the realm of people, where they get to vote. And that's what the United States does with a lot of laws. They have these articles during election, and depending on if the article is passed or not, the state will have to implement that change. And that is a good thing. That's a happy medium. And I guess the future could be more robust, especially when people would be able to vote from their smart devices. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and also a matter of how. I believe the technology which would enable and power the mass voting through smart devices would be based out of blockchain. And that would not only be secure enough to ensure that there are no multiple votes casted by a same member. On top of that, because of the security we have in the devices, we can ensure that the person who is voting for a specific law or a specific person is actually the correct man or woman who should be casting their vote. So it would take some time for mass adaptation in the sense like most of the countries adapting that system. But I believe that it's gonna happen sooner than later, uh, especially if Bitcoin becomes a mainstream currency. And it is on its path, but there are a lot of hurdles for obvious reasons. No country wants to let go of the power of printing their own currency, and dictating. Dictating might be a bit harsh, but controlling how their citizens can use money. So that's the whole reason Bitcoin is frowned upon by pretty much the entire governments of all the countries. So it's still uprising slowly but surely, and probably in next 10 or 15 years or so, most of the people will switch to Bitcoin or some sort of cryptocurrency, because they are clearly seeing that the system is rigged, and it's rigged to favor the banking system and the Wall Streets and a lot of other industries. And I'm not coming it from I would say, a biased perspective, in the sense like, I love capitalism. I also dislike what the rigged system is doing to the people. So when I say the system is clearly rigged, you can see the ramification of that in the society altogether. And that's why, my friends, the people in power use tools to divide all of us, so that we are fighting among each other and literally being robbed by the system. Yeah, it's gonna be more chaotic in next few years for sure, because we are still adapting to the social media, the new norm. And during the next 5 to 10 years, people will get used to the social media. Right now, there is so much wokeism from left, and so much racism from right, at least in the United States, that it will take some time to normalize all of that. And social media is currently acting as the wall between the two groups. Will create a bridge where these two groups, or any type of groups, can come together. I think that there will be echo chambers of different voices, of different policies or different beliefs, and these echo chambers will be filled with people all over the globe. So instead of the physical boundaries which are dividing people from, say, country A to country B, will become irrelevant, and there would be these virtual boundaries of different echo chambers. And those echo chambers would be based on the personal beliefs of or personal opinions of people. And I bet like people can be a participant of multiple echo chambers. So for an example, I believe that capitalism is a good form of economy. Then I'll be part of that echo chamber. And I also believe that there are a lot of good social programs which should be implemented in the country to provide equal opportunities when it gets down to healthcare, when it gets down to education, when it's get down to judicial system and not discriminating people, in addition to the existing socialistic programs of providing security cushion to old people, to disabled people, to mentally ill people, to poor people. There are a lot of social cushions. So I think a lot of these are helpful. So I'm going to be a participant of both of these echo chambers and lot others. So I bet like all of us going to be somewhere in that space where we will be participant of different movements, of different opinions and different echo chambers. And then within those echo chambers, there will be conversation of how to improve the capitalism or capitalistic economy. And likewise for social programs and so on. So hopefully there would be experiments within these echo chambers, and at least theoretically, and at the very least, I bet our computer system would become so advanced that we can run an AI, a simulation, to draft different policies and feed with chaotic data of humans. So imagine that you have two policies, a policy of say free healthcare for everyone, and a policy of low taxes for everyone. And if you combine these two together, and feed it to an AI and let it simulate for a few generations or few centuries and see the result, and based on that result, we'll be able to predict what happens if we combine these two policies and implement that in a particular society. Maybe it won't reflect the actual outcome because all of us are free to do whatever we can. I mean, we all have this illusion of free will, that we can make different choices and that affect altogether any system we are part of. So it would be impossible for the AI to predict the exact outcome. But this will give some sort of direction. And hopefully, if we can feed like variables of different policies into an AI and simulate it based on some of the chaotic patterns we exhibit as a society, we'll be able to see the pattern of how this society emerge over generations. Damn, I wish I had access to machine where I can just feed these simulations. I bet there are a lot of machines which can do this, and I bet if I research enough, I would be able to even get hands on to some of these. But this actually make me super excited because instead of implementing a policy in the real world which have real world consequences, we can actually put it into an AI and simulate it and then mimic based on the result. But at the same time, there are so many variables. I don't know how anyone would be able to feed all those variables into an AI and get results very close to the expected conclusion we may have from the real world. But who to say, once we feed those variables within that simulation, AI, it is obviously bounded by all of those variables, those laws, and that's exactly what we are bounded in this reality as well. So that's the other argument for this reality is a simulation, because we are bounded by these specific physical laws, by these specific electromagnetic laws, by gravitational laws, and relativity, and all the other physical attributes, and also underlying patterns within the universe, like Pareto principle of 80-20. It's a mind-boggling principle, and I have to read the book based on Pareto principle altogether, but some of the things which I absorbed by listening to various podcasts and just watching some of the documentaries on that principle, it shows that 20% of your, say, clients can generate 80% of your total income. Likewise, 20% of your crops will harvest 80% of the best, grains or whatever you sow. So you can apply that Pareto principle in various aspects of your life, and look up for, say, what are the 20% things within your life which are contributing to 80% of your happiness, and then you can mimic those 20% of things. So for an example, if you feel happy when you read a book, read more books. If you feel happy when you eat good quality food, then eat more good quality food. But also, happiness doesn't mean like temporary instant gratification, because we all feel instant gratified when we eat shitty food, or just start feeding ourselves all these BS from social media. So all of that give us this instant gratification, which is obviously temporary. So if you use Pareto principle for that and constantly start feeding yourself social media feeds, sure, you'll be happy for 20% of the time. And once you're off social media, you'll be probably miserable for remaining time. So it's not the right principle, or 80-20 rule doesn't fit in places where you get instant gratification or where you're addicted to something. And I'm still trying to figure out what are the 20% things in my life which makes me 80% effective, 80% happy, 80% confident, 80% successful, 80% whatever. And just by using those 20%, I'll be able to train myself and become 80% of all of those attributes. And I was tossing this idea for meditation as well. So typically I meditate for 60 minutes. So it's very plausible that 20% of those 60 minutes, which is 12 minutes, might be helping me to focus or might be helping me to gain the advantages of 80% of the meditation, So if I'm focused for 12 minutes, then maybe I'll get the 80% return on value for the meditation session. But it is very difficult to focus on anything for 12 minutes straight. Trust me, I've tried multiple times and failed all the times. And I bet there are very few people in the world who would be able to focus on one task for more than 2, 5, 10 minutes. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers here, but for sure, because our mind tend to distract in all directions. That's the innate quality of mind. And you can just extend how long you can have that unwavering focus. And I bet the more work or the more practice you do, the better you're going to become. And I do want to get to a level where I have unwavering focus for hours. But again, like I said, it's based on where I am. I feel that that's very, very tough criteria to meet. I don't know a lot of people who can have focus for a long period of time. And I guess that's why meditation is important, because it trains you to bring your focus from wherever your mind is wandering at the time to the task in hand, and that resonate or reflect in other activities in your life, and sometimes could be even life changing. If you can focus even on tedious tasks like maybe cleaning your place or washing your dishes or doing laundry, or some of the boring tasks, if you can focus on that, then you would feel a sort of peace within. I guess I'm taking so a while back I listened to this podcast, and in that podcast the host was telling a story where this this person who does like boring job, let's just say he's a blacksmith, right? And he does this job every single day, and at the same time he's also practicing mindfulness. And one day he becomes enlightened, and then he goes back to one of the knowledge person, one of the saint or sage or philosopher or whatever, and he goes to him and tell him that he's now an enlightened being. And that learned man asked him, like, so what difference do you feel? He said nothing. Nothing in the sense like he doesn't feel that he's anything special, but now he don't have resistance when he's doing any task. So before being enlightened, he was very resistant to forging the metals, and after being enlightened, he's still forging the metals, but he's very mindful, he's very observing what he's doing every single moment. And that's what enlightenment does, I guess. I bet like I butchered some of the parts of that story, but I'll go back and research on it more to kind of get the exact words. But that was the essence of the story, that once you become aware, you will still continue to do the same work, but you'll be less resistant towards it. And I believe that's a very good place to be, because regardless of your economic situation or financial situation or your social status or any other labels, you will be playing a part in the society if you choose to remain part of society. So the more resistance you put in while playing your part, the more suffering you will be experiencing while doing those parts. So once you turn enlightened and become mindful of what you're doing, there is no resistance anymore. So you will be still playing your part, doing what you were doing before, or you know doing something new, but you will be conscious about what you're doing, and you will be lightened or enlightened. All right. That being said, I know it's super late here, probably close to 1 it is. So I gotta start meditating for the next hour. Wow, this is gonna be late night. I initially planned that I'll sleep before 1, but it's already 1. So tomorrow gonna be tomorrow gonna be a long day. All right, I will see you in an hour. Thanks for joining me for this session. Until next time,